order. Okay. Can we approve the previous minutes? Mr. Dean? Second. Okay, so all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. I see you down there, Mr. Burgo. How are you, Mr. Galver?
Good, how are you?
And the first item is extending an agreement with Capital Newspaper, division of the Hertz Corporation regarding naming the rights for the Civic Center. Mr. Galver.
Okay. So I'd like to provide an explanation of why we got to the point that we are today as far as the proposal that you have in front of you. So the current contract has an expiration date in it of December 31, 2017, which I believe was an oversight on the date put in by the county attorney back when it was first written back in 2006. The 10-year period actually otherwise would end December 31, 2016, but I think it was a misprint that was put into the document as an end date of 2017. Needless to say, if it was to be challenged by the Times Union, which they are not doing at this time, it would mean that we would have 2 more years on the contract. Regardless, we still have a year left on the contract, even if it's December 31, 2016. So with the atrium project that's now being planned out and designed, and with the capital plan that has included the atrium project, which many of you are aware of since the capital plan was approved, the design being done by Synthesis is a change of the whole front of the building as far as the main entrance point. And there's a tower for the name of the building. There's the existing naming rights branding is going to be taken off the building and replaced. So there were a lot of issues that had to be resolved as it related to the name of the building early on here, otherwise it would cause a major delay in the atrium project and in the design of the project as a total. So I began discussions with George First back in October, November. Reached out to him to explain where we were as far as the need to have the name decided one way or the other. I wanted to see if he even had an interest in extending the contract. So, and I want to bring you all up to speed. If you don't remember this, I want to refresh your memory of it, or inform you if you don't remember. Back in 2006, when the Pepsi Arena contract was getting towards the end and an RFP was put out by the county for naming rights, there were no bids that were received. There were 0 bids. Pepsi didn't put in a bid to renew, and there were 0 bids. About 2 weeks after that, I received a call from George Hurst. I received a call from Mark Oldham, who was the publisher at the time of the Times Union, and asked if I would meet him for breakfast and have a discussion about the Times Union's interest in the naming rights of the building. So that took about 3 to 4 months for us to finally get to a point where the terms and conditions were acceptable on both sides. It was presented to the county for approval, and hence we have the Times Union Center. So there were a couple of things when we sat down in November, there were a couple of things that I wanted to change that were to the benefit of the county, especially the minimum spend requirement that's in the document right now that currently exists. The current minimum spend for 2015, I believe, was $239,000. 2016 is a little bit more because of a CPI increase. And we were having a hard time getting promoters to buy print and online advertising of the Times Union to that degree. Over the last few years, we've had anywhere from $60,000 to $70,000 per year that we've had to make up in ads that we placed that we had to pay. So therefore, the net to the bottom line that went to the county's bottom line from a $360,000 fee that was paid for the naming rights really only netted down to about $290,000 as far as a net to the bottom line for the county. So when I negotiated this deal on behalf of you and on behalf of the county exec's office, we put in a $350,000 naming rights fee, but we also reduced the minimum spend down to $162,500. And that $70,000 reduction, in my opinion, will mean that we'll net the $350,000 for each of the 5 years coming up, barring any major change in the way marketing is being spent and how the Times Union is being looked at from promoters. So the bottom line is that we'll bring in about $1,750,000 over 5 years, and the 5 years would be as of January 1 of this year, it would become effective. So the minimum spend in 16 would be $162,500 instead of the roughly $41,000, which again is a positive of $70,000 roughly that goes to help us make sure that that $350,000 is netted on an annual basis. 2017 and right through 2020, it would be, in my opinion, $350,000 a year that the county can bank on as a naming rights fee that will come to the bottom line and help us generate the net profits that we have been used to for the county and hopefully grow them even higher. The concern I have, and certainly if you all decide that you want to go to an RFP process, SMG works for the county, so we will do whatever the county legislature decides. The cause or the net effect of that could have a couple of issues. Let me explain why. First of all, the RFP, if it goes out, has a process, has a certain timeline involved with it. So you're going to end up having at least a 60 to 90 day, probably more like a 90-day, if not longer, time window for seeking bids. If we get bids, hopefully able to get bids and then negotiate and finalize contracts and get them approved. At least a 90-day window, maybe longer. So in the time frame between now and that time period, we would delay any kind of future designs or continuation of designs with the name on the building. And therefore, in my opinion, I think we'll probably delay the project, which will not fall in line with what the goals that the state has had, and I believe the county has had, to open up the Times Union Center fully renovated at the same time that the convention center gets opened up, which is the first quarter of 2017. Having said that, the other issue that I think we also have to be aware of is that an RFP process may not necessarily generate bids, and we don't know that the Times Union will put the same bid on the table, if they put a bid on the table at all. So, in my opinion, we've got a great deal here. I think it's comparatively, and I know what the other deals in the rest of the country are. Our company actually manages a good number, 83 different arenas. And I can tell you that the $350 per year is a strong number, and it's better than most markets that are of similar size. Originally, the negotiation was calling for a 10-year deal. The county exec's office and myself asked the Times Union to go down to a 5-year with a mutual 5-year option. The reason for that is we really wanted to be able to see where we are in 5 years, just in case the value of the advertising in the Times Union or the perception of promoters, should that change and they don't want to spend as much, then the 162.5 may not be an issue, or it may be an issue. But at least 5 years from now, we'll get a chance to look at it. And if it's not an issue, then we can continue on. We would bring that to this body and ask you for approval. And if it's an issue, we can make changes at that time.
Is there any questions? Motion? Mr. B. Smith. Second, Brian. Our second item is oh yeah, I'm sorry. The vote's unanimous? Aye. All right, so moved. Authorizing agreement with SMG and the Albany County Convention Center authorizing authority regarding the shared employee plan.
Motion to table.
Okay, Mr. King is going to table, so. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Authorizing agreement with Con Inc. regarding the Times Union Center elevator project. We have Mr.
Good evening, thank you, Commissioner Lucina. The Department of General Services is requesting approval of contract under the U.S. Communities National Contract in the amount of $602,000, $602,256.77 for the elevator project at the TU building. The elevator there at Beaver Street and the elevator at the TU box office and TU Freight are in desperate need of repair and replacement. And we put this bid out twice, which one was very high priced over our budget. The second one was a non-responsive bidder. We met with purchasing, and this was the best way to go under the U.S. community contract with Kone. We got a much cheaper price, and we're getting 3 elevators done for the price that we were getting 2 done before.
Okay, is there any questions from Mr. Latino?
Yes.
Okay, Brian?
Can you explain to me what the U.S. Communities National Cooperative Deal is? Is this kind of a deal they make for multiple
Yeah, multiple
municipalities?
counties, and sometimes they're state community contracts, and what they do is they go out for bid, and it's the best pricing for that product at that time. And this one is for the elevators for renovation and/or replacement of elevators in the U.S. communities.
So this is not part of the RFP process? They didn't actually respond to the RFP?
No, no, this was discussed after we didn't really have the bids that came in. Like I said, they were way overpriced. The second one was not responsive, and we asked why we weren't getting the amount of bids that we thought we should have. And a lot of it had to do is that the contractors for elevators did not want to do the general construction work on it and the electrical portion of it. So we'll have to go out for bid for those, but still, it's a lot cheaper to go with this U.S. Communities is at this time.
The bid that was too high, how much higher was
The bid that came in before, it was actually, the bids were packaged together with the nursing home. I think the nursing home was 1.3 million, and our portion of it was $718,000 for just 2 elevators.
it? And not the other construction work in addition?
Correct.
Okay. And what was the problem with the non-responsive bid?
They just didn't put any of the package that they put together, they just really didn't.
Did they read the RFP?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Non-responsive, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Is there any other questions? Okay, motion. You want to move it? Okay. And second, okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Keenan. And our next item is authorizing a lease agreement for the rental of the corporate suite number 7 at the Times Union Center.
Mr. Chairman, this is a renewal of a suite that currently exists. Their renewal is coming up. So as of January 1 of 2016, they're currently in the suite and continuing to use it, but it's a renewal. And would ask that it be passed for another 3-year term.
Question?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, move it. Second. Unanimous? So moved. Now we have here reviewing the item statements and as they're being passed out, so we can have Mr. Delbert bring the hand out.
I didn't have that in my package, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Do you have one?
Great.
No.
Yeah, thank you. So this is just the first, actually this is for the starting line. This is for the year, okay. So on page 3 of your document, is the period ended January 31, 2016. So for the first month of the year, we're currently up on our budget by approximately $5,000 comparatively to budget, which is what we were expecting actually for the month. We had some good events in the month of January. The attendance has been up on the monster trucks was very good, and the Devils games have started to increase in the month of January. And Sienna is also still very strong for us. So I'm optimistic as we continue on with this just being the first month of the year that we're going to be in line with our budget. And the future concert bookings look very strong going forward. The month of February, I think, is looking like it's going to end up being on tick for budget as well. So, so far so good. I think we're looking good for the year.
And how was the Bruce Springsteen concert?
Bruce Springsteen concert was terrific. It was very high profit for the arena. I think there were a whole lot of people that walked away very happy. The economic impact was huge because we had a lot of people that came in from outside the market. So every hotel was full from, I think, from Kingston to Glens Falls practically. It was
That's great.
amazing how many hotels said they were sold out.
Wow. Any questions? Okay.
Small one.
Motion.
Why do you think the parking garage was a little below budget? Are we having any challenges for some of our monthly?
It's not so much the monthly as it is the attendance or parking use for some of the Devils games has been off as compared to what our budget was. There were some monthly parking issues that state contracts that are handled directly through the county. We had trains from ours over to the county, but for the most part, I think it's more a reduced number of cars coming into the garage. You know, they've got the ability to park on the streets, and there are other garages nearby as well. And when you've got, you know, on a Wednesday night with the Devils games, 1,500 or 2,000 people
street
coming in, it reduces the numbers.
I mean, that being said, we're still ahead of last year's nicely.
Yeah, yep.
Any other questions? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mr. Belvin.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bob, here's a question. Is Springs